Arizona, Colorado, Indiana, Michigan, New Jersey, Tennessee, and Virginia. Listen up. WynnBET is now live in all these states, and the excitement of Wynn Las Vegas has finally landed in online sports betting and casino play. From boosted parlays to live in-game offs on every major sport, WynnBET gives you the tools to win. Sign up today for your risk-free $1,000 sports bet. Download the WynnBET app now or visit wynnbet.com to start winning.
You're listening to Mile High Insiders with Nick Kendell and Luke Patterson. Head on over to milehighhuddle.com for all things Broncos. Now, it's time to find out what's going on behind the walls of UC Health Training Center.
Welcome in, guys. It is Saturday night, and it's breakfast for dinner for Broncos Mile High Insiders.
Inside Broncos Mile High breakfast.
There we go. All I know, Scott, are you a breakfast for? I think we've had this conversation before. You definitely are a breakfast for dinner kind of guy.
Yeah, I eat yeah. I'm at any time. If you put food in front of me, anytime, whatever it is,
besides
within
meat,
reason,
yeah.
I'm gonna eat it.
Yeah, totally.
I like food. I like to eat.
I'm with you there. I used to like a little bit more than I do now. I lost a bunch of weight before the wedding years ago, and now I want to make sure I'm taking care of myself so I can go out there and do all those hikes and climbs that I like to do. But the one thing I will say, we do have obviously our Broncos for breakfast shows, and we always have our coffee. If I have coffee after noon or 1 o'clock, I'm wrecked. The rest of it, my stomach's upset. I can't sleep. I can't do it. I have an old man stomach.
See, the hard part for me is I played soccer until I was about 35 years old. So until I was about 25 years old, maybe even a little older, I lived on 8,000 calories a day and was 160 pounds. Well, that means I'm always hungry now. Always.
Yeah.
Always.
Yep. 100%. Let's say hello to some people in here, guys. Luke is off today, but he'll be back next Saturday. So it's Scott and I, the morning crew. We got Dylan in here. What's up, Dylan? I made the big egregious mistake. Rectified it this weekend. I noticed that I wasn't following Dylan on Twitter. So Dylan, I know I'm such a fool. So we're doing that now. Dylan and I had a good laugh about it. Sup Broncos country. Make sure you guys hit the like button on the way in and subscribe if you haven't already. Also follow Dylan on Twitter. We got Shanav coming in here with the W with the Russell Wilson picture there. Awesome to see. Willard saying he's watching the podcast since day one. Back then it wasn't about coins. They talked to everyone. Willard, we're talking to you now. But it's the issue is sorry to get Scott mid thing. If you have any questions, Willard, that's great. The issue is sometimes we definitely have to and want to get to everybody who does support us financially. But if you have questions, we'll definitely get to you too. Also, Scott and I are both 5 years old at heart, and when you do donate stars or anything like that, it flashes on our screen. So the shiny thing, the color thing, it's easy to grab. Diamond Rattler in the house. Boom, let's go. We got Ashley.
And I always come in through the comments after the fact. So like on YouTube, Willard, you're on YouTube. If I'm on, I don't go through all the pods, but I go through anything that I'm on or have posted with video. If you have a question after the fact, like, hey, moron, why'd you say this? I'll be like, because I screwed up. That's where I do most of my catching up, because there's probably between 1,000 and 1,500 comments a night on the chat now, which is good. It's good. Yeah. It's busy. We love it. And thank you very much for being here.
Yeah, thank you guys so much. Ashley, and your shout out to the Mile High Huddle ladies. Howdy Broncos country from snowy Vermont. Howdy. Do they say howdy in Vermont? Either way.
Howdy everywhere.
Howdy everywhere. It's almost as good as y'all. But how about those Broncos now? Have a great show, fellas. You have a great one, Ashley, too. Thanks for joining us today. She's in the house. How about them Broncos? Jay Kozad, that's an OG name. It's going to be hard to predict how the Broncos will fare in year one with the new coaching staff, but I got hope, especially after we got Russell. Absolutely. We got EJ in the house. Good evening, Nick and Scott. Great to see you. Dennis Woods is in the house. Dave Glassman coming in with the stars, supporting us, getting his raffle tickets in for a chance at the jersey. And also Swink McLeod for Scott to keep the heat on because he looks cold in that hat. Scott, would you believe that I am out of heat again? They didn't come. The gosh darn oil company didn't fill our tanker like they said they would, and now they're not coming until Tuesday. So I am very cold. I'm
Swink, that's a new name. So welcome. Appreciate the support. And I live in Atlanta, and we had wind chills in the teens all day today. In March, that's cold. I don't care where you are. That's cold. I'm like, I've never seen 25-mile-an-hour winds with 25-degree weather unless I was up on a mountain somewhere, not in Georgia, for goodness sake. So it was a little rough today.
Yeah, woof. That's the pets have been extra cuddly, which has been good, but they're trying to get warm as well. Yeah, absolutely. We also got Dennis Woods in the house. What do the Broncos have left to trade? Try right tackle. Oh, we got Gary first. Gary Leeds Palmer. Thankful to be live with my favorites. Wow, Gary, that's so nice of you to say. We appreciate you. Always coming in on the
big stars from Gary. Always the support for sure.
Thank you
John
so much, Gary.
says, I live in Atlanta, and you're right. It was ridiculous today. I listened to these poor kids play. All of my kids' sports got canceled today, soccer and baseball and softball, but there were still kids playing softball at 10 or baseball at 10 a.m. And I was listening to it, and it sounded like this: walk, air, 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 walk, air, walk. Those guys can't feel their hands.
So we can have a lot more fun. Let's say everybody who's in here. Jasmine's in the house. I remember Jasmine joining us when we did our fever dream of an episode that was the Tuesday live show that was Russell Wilson coming to Denver. Good to see you, Jasmine. I'm glad we didn't scare you off. Hopefully we didn't scare you off with the other read just now. Jamal Killings too. Hello, fellas in Broncos country. We got Dirty Boy Nick. You're cool too, IG.
He said he loves me. So
okay,
Dirty Boy 6789 6789. It feels like a phone number. I know it's all in order, but I think that's a phone number. So I don't think I know this person. I might. Dirty
Ernie
Boy.
Mays in the house too. Ernie's really great in the Facebook group chat. Make sure you guys are going to facebook.com/Mile High Huddle and /Mile High Huddle pod. Hello, Ernie. Good to see you. Miguel Santasteven coming in here. Evening, fellas. What are the odds the Broncos land La'el Collins and Chandler Jones /Von Miller? I think the odds are pretty good for an edge rusher. It might not be Chandler Jones /Von Miller. I don't know if you saw today, it was Jeremy Fowler of ESPN said that the Vikings are shopping Daniel Hunter, who is a very good edge rusher from the Vikings. He's had a back injury that's made him a little bit scary. It's a massive roster bonus, but I wouldn't be shocked if they don't find a market because of his massive roster bonus on his contract. And he could be on the market. He's one that interests me a lot. We could see DeMarcus Lawrence for the Cowboys. Apparently the Cowboys are having a fire sale going on right now. Speaking of which, we also got La'el Collins. Maybe I think there's going to be 3 years, $10 million per for a top 12. Let's go, safe top 12, probably top 8 right tackle. That's only 28 years old. That's kind of, I think you're going to have some competition there. Broncos might be interested, but you probably don't want to go crazy with your draft capital to go get him. But he interests me a lot. Oh, the other name I want to say is Zadarius Smith. I'm watching him intently with Green Bay. I think he'd be a great scheme fit.
Yeah, and thanks for the stars, Mel. You start wondering, it's like, how many of these guys, you're about 25 right now before you do anything else. You still have to sign your draft class, which isn't quite as expensive as it was before, now that you don't have the 9. So forget that one. Yeah. But it's, how many of these guys can you get? Can you get 2 of those guys? And then what? What about linebacker? All these type of things. So, and again, y'all know me. I'm a cynic. You're not getting anybody. Threw that out the window. I said, this is a different franchise. This is different covering the Broncos and some of the other teams I have. So La'el Collins, Chandler Jones, and or Von Miller. Be pretty surprised if you didn't get one of those 3, wouldn't you? So, and Phil coming in with some stars. Appreciate you, my friend. And Travis coming in with some stars also. Great show, guys. Hopefully it will be. We're just getting started, but the energy feels good, especially since I didn't know I was coming on until about 3 minutes before we came on. So we're going to I was going to be here anyway. Might as well just come instead of typing snarky comments in the background. I can just, say my snarky comments. Travis saying good evening, Nick and Scott in Broncos country. It's dinner with the Broncos. And no kidding, you know what? I just had a slice of pizza and a bowl of Golden Grams. That was my dinner tonight. I know we made a point with Wilson. Charge made a counterpoint with Mac. What's Peyton's next chess move?
I think that Peyton's next chess move needs to be bringing in good players, but not breaking the bank. Historically speaking, if you are paying for free agents, most of those free agents that are the big deal breakers tend to not work out very well. There's a reason that those guys hit the markets, especially, avoid paying. If the Patriots let a player go, do not buy. Historically speaking, that's a big red flag outside of Aqib Talib and Chandler Jones. So definitely something the Broncos will have to do. I don't think they have to go out there and make the craziest purchase at the right tackle position. If you can get La'el Collins, absolutely. But What they cannot do is go out there and do a Juwan James, Malik Watson type of move where it skunks you the next few seasons. Obviously, this Broncos team, their window opened up the day they traded for Russell Wilson, but this isn't a 1-year window. This isn't a 2-year window like you're talking about with Aaron Rodgers. You're talking 5, 6, 7, 8 years. So if you can, even if let's say worst case scenario, you bring back Bobby Massey, he's better than 3 of the 4 right tackles that played in the championship games last year, in my opinion, or right there with them. So it's a little tougher in the AFC West because of all the edge rushers that this division currently has. But again, if you can get incompetency at right tackle, that should be enough. And I think it's more important they walk away with an elite pass rusher because you lost Shelby Harris and you were second or last in the entire NFL in pass rush win rate, Pro Football Focus pass rush. This Broncos team doesn't have anybody right now besides Draymond Jones that can get after the passer that I trust a lick next season.
Yeah, and even then, that's a 3-4 lineman. What you get from him is a bonus. You're not really counting on a ton of pressure from a 3-4 interior lineman as opposed from your edge guys.
100%. Yeah, absolutely. So they got to make some moves there. I think they'll be able to walk out with an edge rusher. That's the one that they have money in the bank. They're ready to go make a splash. DeAndre Weatherspoon, good to see you. Worm for Mayor, awesome. Paul, good to see you. Paul, hello, Nick and Scott. Good morning. Where are you, Paul?
What was that one, Worm for Mayor?
Worm for Mayor, good evening, Nick and Scott. Are we having evening coffee tonight? If you just heard what I said, then absolutely not. Scott maybe he's about to pull up some coffee.
It's too late for me to have coffee, but what I do have is my highball glass full of dark chocolate. So that's not enough caffeine. So I usually eat on these when I'm in the background, but I don't know if I'll be able to do it while we're doing these. Like I said, I like to eat. That's the hard one. You can't go cold turkey on eating. That's the problem. That's the hard one to try and diet because it's hard to just stop eating.
Absolutely. David Wilder, good evening, Nick and Scott. Good to see you, David. Michael Ronquillo,
David had a question also. He said, Nick, who was the best available slot corner?
The best available slot corner.
6 stars with that, David. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, interesting question. I think that it might honestly be Bryce Callahan. I know that Taron Young just got released as well. He's an interesting one to watch out for. I know that there's another one with I believe the Patriots as well released somebody, but Bryce Young is the name that I think is probably the best slot corner. He's been a pretty consistent top 10, top 12 graded cornerback at the slot position. Just you can't count on him to play a full season. He's going to miss 4 to 6 games. So you need some depth there. No doubt about that. But it honestly might be Bryce. And also it depends on the scheme. The Broncos are going to play a lot more off coverage. So the size doesn't really matter as much. Somebody who's tenacious and can tackle, that really matters more so than the size and the length. We are once again proving that Broncos country is not a physical location, but a state of being. From the Netherlands, hopefully I'm not butchering your name too bad, Sharon Gomans. So welcome. Appreciate you being here from way across the pond. And he's probably laughing at me, complaining that it was 15 degrees and windy. But that's unusual for here. Cold is cold. I get it, but that's unusual for where I live. Yeah, thank you so much.
Definitely when you're supposed to be outside playing baseball.
Baseball's back though, so good times. I see Freddie Freeman's on his way to LA. Maybe who knows? Sorry, did I trigger you on that one?
What?
Freeman? The Dodgers making a big move on him. That's what it sounds like. Maybe
I'll believe he goes somewhere else when I see him suit up with
another team. Okay, that's fair. My guest coming. What's up, Broncos country? Great to see you, David Evans. Good evening. Nathan's in the house, and Scott and Nick put in that overtime this week. We've been busy, but gosh, there's never been a better time to be busy with that one.
I guess this is the same week, isn't it?
I don't even know. I've been working so
Monday,
much.
Tuesday.
Yeah.
Wednesday, Thursday. This is probably our 6th show. My 6th show this week, and Nick's done an extra one.
I'm in a sleepwalk right now, but I'm having fun. This is a good dream. No doubt. Salvi Nation in the house. Sup Broncos country. Good to see you. Michael in the house too. We got John Boy, a fellow North Dakotan in the house. And we had a super chat here. There it is.
Aaron J coming in. Aaron, so and I feel like that's a new name too. A new super chat user. So thank you, Aaron. I was in cold and snowy Colorado last week, toured Mile High Stadium, and the Wilson news warmed my heart. Back home in the rainy Pacific Northwest, go Broncos. Yeah, you're again, I mean, it's not even, my team. I know where I was. I'll remember where I was where I got the news. I mean, it's a big deal. It's one of the biggest trades, period. It's just not very often that a guy of that caliber 10-year vet, which isn't that old anymore. You can play 17, 18 years, 9-time Pro Bowler, gets moved for a big haul, couple first rounders, couple starters. And that was big news. That rocked the world. I don't remember who it was. It was one of the big names, Rappaport or Schefter, when Rodgers announced, or he didn't announce, he called up Pat McAfee and says, "Hey, Pat, go ahead and tell people." When that news came out, they said the first domino fell. Well, they're falling quick now.
Yeah.
They started falling very quickly after that, and then Russell Wilson was a big news. So it's been a fun week to cover the NFL.
Absolutely. I'm still kind of comprehending Amari Cooper going for that little to the Browns. I guess the salary cap does exist somewhat, but who knows? Kathy Lund, hello to our Mile High ladies. Hi, friends. Sorry I'm late. What I missed? Nothing too much. We're waiting on you. So now we can start the show, guys. Everything else was rehearsal before. Now that Kathy's here. Now, Kathy, it's good to see you. We got Sistos coming in here saying, "Good evening, gentlemen. It's crazy how bad these last 6 years have been. And all of a sudden we're talking about Super Bowl contenders. Hashtag MHH for life. Hashtag Denver Broncos for life." So yeah, this is a good topic here. And this is kind of the main topic here. What we want to talk about today is the Broncos' place in the AFC West. Obviously, acquiring Russell Wilson, seismic move that's going to, reverberations are still being felt across the NFL league. I mean, I would say that the Chargers bringing in Mac is a direct reaction to the arms race that is happening in the AFC West right now. With that being said, the Broncos still have a lot of holes on this team. And while they are Super Bowl contenders, I say that more so in a sense that if the Broncos get into the playoffs, which they should with the infrastructure they have in Russell Wilson, then they can get hot like the Bengals and win enough games to get in there. That being said, I don't think that they are favorites in the AFC West. I don't think they're favorites in the AFC as they stand right now with all the holes they have. I honestly, and some people will roll their eyes at this. I put it on Twitter yesterday and I got a lot of kickback. I think the Chargers are pretty obviously ahead of the Broncos on paper right now, and as well as the Chiefs after the Mac move.
I don't know. I really don't. I mean, you split with the Chargers last year, right?
Yeah.
I know they went and got Mac, but you got Wilson. Okay. Advantage Broncos.
Yeah.
You went and got, the question mark. Now, I think the big question mark is how good is your coaching staff upgrade going to be? Because if it's even a marginal upgrade, advantage Broncos. So, I think, I don't think the Chargers are ahead. I'd still go second. The Chargers were better on the whole last year, but I don't know that they had a better roster. And again, I could tell by week 6 that this team had thrown in the towel. That's not going to happen this year.
Yeah.
You're going to get a new coach bump right away for sure.
Yep. Yeah, Kathy, Pacific Northwest friends. It looks like we're going to have a rough week coming up here. We also talking about the Pacific Northwest.
I like this question. Only Ice Monkey said, "Why was Seattle so willing to trade a franchise QB?" Which goes into the argument of, did you flee Seattle? Did Seattle get enough? One, Russell Wilson was ready to go. He was looking for a new challenge and a new change. 2, he had just 2 years left on his contract, so you're looking to make sure you get a return on it without him just leaving for nothing. 3, they're blowing it up. They're starting over, and they're going to say, okay, we had 10 years of Russell Wilson. We probably aren't going to be good enough that a franchise quarterback is going to make that big of a difference for us. We can get a bunch of draft capital and take a couple shots in the draft, take a couple shots in free agency, take a shot or two in the trade market, Deshaun Watson, and we can start younger and start building again. So, I look at it something like this, and let's say this was 2 years ago, watching the trajectory of, say, the Atlanta Falcons with Matt Ryan. I'm jealous. The Seattle Falcons, the Seattle Seahawks have ripped the Band-Aid off and are in a good place to start rebuilding their team, as opposed to just slowly declining with their franchise quarterback. They said, okay, listen, we want to accelerate. We want to hit bottom so we can bounce back up.
Yeah, absolutely. We got Brock saying, "Hey, Broncos for Breakfast Club at night." Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for joining us. We also got some Seahawks fans coming in the house here. Russell's watched, guys. I'm sorry for what's to come. I have watched Brock Osweiler and Trevor Siemian and Jeff Driscoll and Brandon Allen and Brock Osweiler again and Case Keenum and Drew Lock and Teddy Bridgewater and Brett Rippon and Kendall Hinton. I'm not that sorry for what's to come. We'll see if he is washed or not, but it's going to be much more interesting to watch the Broncos going forward. We also have some pushback here on the Chargers talk here. No way, Nick. They're the Chargers. And David so nicely says, I respectfully disagree, Nick. And then David coming in. I love it, David. Give me the spice. Good grief. You can't make that assessment right now. The caveat is it's obviously pre-free agency and draft. Things are going to change. But right now, I guess my argument for the Chargers is, even though they missed the playoffs last year, they were a pretty darn good team. There's no way the Raiders should have won. The Raiders I think they had the most 1-score win games in football last year. And a lot of their extra numbers said that it probably should have been a 6 or 7 win team. The fact that they got 9 or 10, whatever it was, is crazy. So that's a team I'm expecting massive regression next year. But the Chargers have the cheat code right now. They have a top 5 quarterback making $7 million against the cap when Aaron Rodgers is going to be $50 million against the cap this year. Crazy. They also have stacked players almost at every position of value you have on the roster right now. You got Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa. Let's say Khalil Mack isn't even a top 10 edge rusher anymore. Let's say he's top 20. He's playing second fiddle to Joey Bosa. You got one of the best back 7 playmakers in football in Derwin James. Big caveat there is those guys have to be healthy. We'll see if that comes to fruition.
One of those guys, Nick's going to get singled a lot. Probably yes. Mack this year. Mack is probably is used to being the guy. Yeah. And okay, which one are you going to? You're going to go double tight ends and twin backs all the time and go max protect? Let's see. That would be double tights and 2 backs. I don't even know what package that is. Was that leave you 1 receiver? So it's going to be good for them. But again, they were good, but they were still up and down. There's enough holes there to cause problems that they did miss the playoffs. And going back to your comment, I wanted to jump back on the comment you had about the Denver Broncos, a Super Bowl contender. Are they favorites? No. But you don't have to be a favorite to be a contender.
No.
When going into the playoffs, I think I said the only 2 teams that would surprise me if they made the Super Bowl were the 49ers and the Bengals out of that bunch. And one of them made it.
Yep.
So basically all the teams after the first round, let me say, so once you got down to 8, it's like there were basically only 2 that were surprises to me. Everybody else was kind of who you thought they were. So if you're in the 8 to 10 range, you're in this thing. You're a contender.
Absolutely. And when you have a quarterback like that, he can go unconscious and win you some games. You do have, now it's about getting the infrastructure around the quarterback. The Broncos have a lot of work to do, improving their pass rush, probably adding a right tackle as well, and adding some coverage pieces right now. They don't have anybody I trust to play the slot next season. And that's a big position, especially with Evero, probably from what I've heard. They're not going to emphasize the off-ball linebacker position. It's going to be defensive backs on defensive backs, safeties and cornerbacks galore back there. So they need to get some more bodies.
Appreciate you, Paul. Thanks for coming with a very generous super chat. We're seeing orange tonight. That looks almost like a Broncos orange.
Yeah.
And going back to one of our friends from Seattle's comment, said Russell Wilson is washed, guys. A bad Russell Wilson season right now is better than anything you've seen in years, in over half a decade.
Since 2014.
Big improvement.
Yeah.
Is he at his best? Maybe not.
Yeah.
Does he need a fresh scenery? Will that reinvigorate him? Make him do just that little bit extra every time he's working out in the off season? Probably. Will he have more weapons? Maybe not necessarily at the top level, but we talked about, DK Metcalf, etc. But can you go down Tim Patrick, Jerry Jeudy, Sutton, Okwuegbunam, Javonte Williams? I just hit 5, and that's before anybody else comes in, where you've got that depth of targets to spread the ball around to. Like I said, a washed Russell Wilson is an upgrade.
Yeah. I'm really excited to see what he can do in this scheme as well. But let's get back to that. Paul first, whether we win the AFC West or not, at least now we have a chance to do it with Wilson. I'll take that any day. Let's go. Thank you so much, Paul. Friend of the show, dating way back to he found us on the podcast days when we were recording this. Like, we used to use a phone app with a metronome, and I would have Carl clap to the metronome to sync our feeds together because we were recording it on our own software. And then, God, what a pain in the butt. Things are much easier these days. Travis coming in saying, would you guys take Chris Harris Jr. back on a veteran deal? I personally have mixed feelings about it. We need defensive backs, but don't like how he trash talked Denver. I don't care that he trash talked Denver. I mean, he got his feelings hurt. He was moved on from when he had some money on the table, and he got less money because they moved on from him. I might trash talk them too in that regard, but money talks. I would be interested if it was cheap. He's fallen off good bit. He's older. He has been injured with the Chargers as well. If he comes in and, gosh, I guess, honestly, I want to do better than him. I'm going to be completely honest, because he comes in and you probably paying him. He's not going to come in to be your backup slot or your fifth cornerback. So if it's really cheap, I guess I'm interested. But it does concern me a bit. And I'd rather chase a little bit better than Chris Harris Jr. right now, as much as that hurts me to say, because I think what a good find by Elway, that first draft class. Harris Jr., not drafted, but undrafted free agent, coming in with Von Miller that same year. I mean, that's incredible. That's an incredible haul. And it really helped set that Broncos organization on the right path.
Oh, and Jamal coming in saying it's funny Elway didn't want to draft Wilson, but instead drafted Brock. Now Wilson is a Bronco.
Yeah.
Life is a little funny like that. Maybe it was just meant to be. Just 10 years later, now you've got the guy that's a little more polished.
Yep.
Phil coming in saying, awesome to hear that Russ is already connected with his receivers and FaceTime with his O-line.
Yeah.
Reminds me of what Manning did when he joined the team. Sounds like all these guys are excited to have him here, along with all of us. Reminds me of another guy who connected with his team very well when he got to the team last year and won the starting job. So it is a move of a veteran quarterback to go out there and make sure you are well connected and showing leadership like that. He's not, Russell Wilson's not the first. Teddy Bridgewater's not the first. Peyton Manning wasn't the first, and they won't be the last. That is a move of a veteran. They know they depend on everybody else around them. Thank you, Phil.
Yeah, thanks, Phil. Phil got a new picture, too, so shout out to Phil. We got Eagle coming in here, or Eagly. Is it right to think that we need help at right tackle and edge? Absolutely. Those are the two biggest spots, without a doubt. I would also add nickel corner, or somebody who can play the slot. Doesn't have to be a corner per se. It could be a safety as well. And also defensive tackle. Broncos probably need to bring another defensive tackle now that Shelby Harris has been moved. So we got Nathan coming in. Thoughts on cornerback Carlton Davis and outside linebacker Aluakon as possible additions to the defense? I think Carlton Davis is going to get an absolutely insane contract. He's a 25-year-old boundary corner. So I personally think he's going to probably get more than I would be willing to pay. Again, it's great to pay all the good players, but sometimes you have to be a little bit frugal, and you're going to find more value like signing the guys who are $3-4 million versus these guys who are going to get 15 plus. That's what the Bengals did last year to fill out their defense. That's what the Raiders did last year to fill out their defense. And they went from like bottom 3, bottom 5 defense in DVOA and EPA per play up into the top 15. And if you have a good enough offense, top 15, good enough to get you there. Broncos are like the only team to make the Super Bowl in the last decade that had a defense, I guess not a decade, the last 5-7 years that had a defense as good as they did with the offense being poor. So you can get there with just good enough defense. Aluakon, he's fine. I don't think he's a very good scheme fit. I just think he has to be completely covered. I want him in a 4-3 defense. He's
Aluakon, and this is Nick watching a lot of the Falcons this year, being able to just breeze through Foye Aluakon's name nicely. He had 192 tackles, 6'2", 215 pounds, a late round draft pick, a Yale grad, the kind of guy you want on your team that you root for. Super productive, super smart, makes all the calls for the Atlanta Falcons defense. The other problem with that is if you don't think he's that great of a scheme fit, which to me can be debated, I think he's hella productive and he's a great leader. He's super smart. I think he's going to start getting expensive. People are starting to recognize all of the things I just said about him. Because when you start hearing about him, it's like, oh yeah, but he was with the Falcons and nobody gave a damn about the Atlanta Falcons. But I've started to hear that he's going to start knocking on the door of about $10 million a year. And he, if you lead the league in tackles at, how old is he? 26. Yeah, he's 26 years old and he had 192 tackles this year. A couple of big time interceptions and turnovers. He made some big plays to go along with it. He deserves it. So he might price himself out of what the Denver Broncos want to pay for an inside linebacker.
And just talking with people connected to the team, it doesn't sound like the Broncos are going to break the bank for a linebacker. So your Bobby Wagner talks not happening. They might bring back Josie Jewell, but these guys and the Broncos are really excited about Baron Browning and Jonas Griffith. And this is also a class where picks 64, 75, 96, 114, 115, the Broncos' first 5 draft picks numbered. How do you like that? I got those memorized already. That's a range where you're going to find a good linebacker in this class. This is a really, really good and deep off-ball linebacker class, there's going to be 6 or 7 starters drafted day 2 in this class. I have zero doubt about that. So that's what I would personally do. I'm not looking to spend money on those guys myself. I think there's going to be defensive tackles, coverage guys in the defensive backfield. You probably need another safety. Everybody's like, oh, Caden Stearns. I love Caden Stearns. You're going to be playing 3 safeties, and Jamar Johnson had like 20 snaps last year. You don't know what you have there. You need another safety. You don't know what you're doing at slot. So I think they're okay with linebackers right now, and then maybe reassessing after the draft if it doesn't fall to them where they take a guy decently early.
Yeah. Luakon was on 2.2 last year, right in that neighborhood. Love him at 2.2. Love him at 5. After that, I'm thinking, okay, that's a luxury you might not be able to afford when I could take 10 million and turn it into 3 other starters, or at least quality backup players. Miguel coming in with some more stars again says, hey, Broncos country, what do y'all think of Rodgers setting off that first domino? Makes up for the quiet month and a half, don't you think? Wasn't necessarily quiet because everybody with a microphone and a keyboard was out there going, yeah.
That's us.
What is Rodgers going to do? Here he comes again. Blah, blah, blah. That prima donna didn't say anything. I had it out with Lance and Eric last night after the show when they were talking about I even heard him say like a LeBron James-like announcement. I'm like, the dude called up Pat McAfee and said, yeah, go ahead and announce this. I said, that was all on us. You know, anytime he'd go outside, what does this mean? But yes, it did make up for it. And it's been crazy. You know, once that first one falls, it's the same way. It's going to be like that in the draft. Once someone takes that first quarterback, look out. Once the first edge rush, you know, stockpile, you mentioned linebackers. Who's going to take the first linebacker? But I think this year, Nick, it could be like that with quarterbacks again in the draft. What do you think?
It's definitely possible. God, quarterback's so finicky, though. You know, desperation causes people to do very stupid and desperate things. I'll never forget about the teams that took the quarterbacks in the 2011 draft. The ones not named Cam Newton, Blaine Gabbert, Christian Ponder, and Jake Locker all went in the first 15 picks. And all the other picks around them are Hall of Famers, and those guys all bust. And it's just the desperation of the quarterback position.
That was the year. I remember thinking when Christian Ponder, he went in the teens too. He went pretty high.
Like 11.
I just went, they have lost their minds.
Yep.
When I saw that he went that high, I'm like, people do some really crazy stuff when it comes to the quarterback position. That's for sure.
If you don't have one, you're cooked. And that's why why it is. And also congratulations, Scott, to Matt Ryan kicking that can down the road another year with the 2023 cap hit.
I haven't seen, did they put another year on it? I know that they gave him a bonus but you know, it ended up saving about $12 million. Did they add another year to it?
I don't think so. I think they just kicked the can and put more load on 2023.
Oh yeah, I think I did hear it was like something like almost a 60 million cap hit.
Yeah, it was like 55 million or something. Yep. Yeah, crazy.
But I wanted to be that, just like it wasn't going to be 47 this year. So people keep blaming Matt Ryan, but you know they're the ones that Falcons are the ones that keep doing it. If you really had the stomach for it, and I told y'all, I said I don't think the Falcons have the stomach to go full rebuild way and do what the Eagles did with Carson Wentz, to do what the Seahawks did with Russell Wilson. I don't think the Falcons have the stomach, the fortitude to do it. They didn't.
Yeah, no, absolutely. David Wilder saying, what would be a player you'd want to draft that is not a position of need per se, but could add depth to a position room? So not a position of need. There's so many positions of need right now that I'm going to have to just lean into the one that is probably the most likely not in position of need. And that is wide receiver. And there are a few names at wide receiver that interest me greatly. I am becoming a full-on 11 personnel truther, even more so than I used to be. And that hurts me to say. I'm wearing my Iowa stuff right now. It's a tight end university, some might argue. But in today's NFL right now, teams are laughing at opposing offenses that are running in 12 and 21 personnel, the teams that aren't the 49ers, I must say, because they're saying, oh, you think you want to get us into sub-pack or base packages with your personnel? Bet. Run on us. I dare you. So you need to be able to run the ball out of 11 personnel if teams are going to go super light on you. What does that mean to me? You need your wide receivers being absolute maniacs as blockers out on the edge. It's something that's made the Rams so much fun to watch. They do so much out of 11 personnel and it all looks the same, but there's different plays out of it. And Robert Woods, Cooper Kupp, those guys block like they're street fighters. I mean, it's incredible to watch on the boundary, and that creates a lot of big runs out of that outside zone. So a long way to get to it. 2 wide receivers who block like absolute psychopaths that I think would be in range where the Broncos might start thinking about it. John Mechie III in the 3rd round, he tore his ACL. Maybe he's not going to be fully 100% next year, but you know what? If you're the Broncos, that's okay. You don't have to have your wide receiver be 100% next year because it's going to be more about down the line. And he's a dog blocker. I really like what he brings. Really good route runner as well. He's going to be a really good number 2 wide receiver in the NFL, I believe. And number 3 too. If you have a guy who's good enough to be a number 2 quality player as your number 3, even better. The other one who stands out to me is Velus Jones from Tennessee. He's a returner as well as a dynamic, really good blocker in space. Tennessee with their quarterback erratic play didn't really live up to it. So he's one that interests me as well. And again, you're talking about a massive luxury on that one.
And we went same position. This is my guy, Christian Watson. Jumped out of the gym, 11'4" broad jump, 6'4" and change, about 210 pounds, ran 4.36. I think he probably played his way up to where he's going to be gone before you get a chance. I think it might be the 3rd play on here. Obviously, it wasn't the 3rd. I like his hands. He's got almost 11-inch hands, too. I mean, he's got, but watch him block on one of these. He's a great blocker, like Nick was saying, so he does it all. So Christian Watson was my guy for, because we both said the same thing, wide receiver. You basically need everything. Watch, this is a block, nice seal here as he comes around, and that was the one where the safety said, I'm not going to mess with Faalele there. So that was my guy.
Yeah,
that was David's question. Was Christian Watson. Really a big fan, and Nick and I both went the same way. We both went wide receiver. Travis coming in with some stars, saying it would have been awesome to see Wagner with Browning.
Wagner,
go ahead. What happens with Josie Jewell? A lot of the same things that I like. I like that veteran presence, and again, coming off the injury, I don't think Jewell's gonna be that expensive. No. He was 2.5, right in that neighborhood last year, right, Nick?
Yep.
If he doubles his money at 5, do you bring him back at 5? Maybe. But Browning got more of a chance because Jewell was out. Now let's see what they can do together a little bit, And again, I like Jonas Griffith a lot too. What was he? 6'4", almost 260 pounds, running sideline to sideline like he did. Whew. I'm interested to see him in year 2 also. But I do want to see a veteran in there that basically can teach these guys, for lack of a better word, how to be pros. How to be pros, how to take care of their bodies, the film room, the day in and day out of being a pro. And I think Josie did a good job with that last year when he didn't get to play. We heard at least I'm already flushing their names. Who was the defensive coordinator?
Ed Donatel.
Donatel was singing the praises of Josie Jewell last year, saying he was here every day, worked with the guys every day. If he's healthy, if he's affordable, I wouldn't mind seeing Josie Jewell come back. I really wouldn't.
Yeah, absolutely. Good call. We have a question here from our pal. Your guys' opinion on Pierre Strong from South Dakota State. Could be a 3rd down back and returner. I thought he looked really good at the combine. He was in the East-West Shrine game as well. I do not have tape to that, but I did see some of the game and he stood out. And he had really good metrics from the combine. So if he's there day 3, that's as early as the Broncos should be taking a running back in this year's class. He's definitely an interesting name to keep an eye on. Definitely represent, the Jackrabbits, South Dakota State. He's a good player. He's a fun one.
Yeah, you weren't kidding about the really good metrics. 5'11", 207. That's just about right. That's, people say, what's the ideal size for a running back? That's pretty close to it. Maybe a few extra pounds. But when he's going out there and churning out a 4.37 with a 36-inch vert and a 10.4 broad jump, I'm not going to worry about those couple extra pounds that will come on him naturally. So that is a good shout on Pierre Strong. I'll have to keep an eye on him.
You guys in the chat, let me know if Scott's mic got a little weird there. He was kind of going a little fast and crunchy there on my end. It could just be my earphones or batteries running out or something. Doesn't sound weird with my own voice, but who knows? Nick and Scott, who should the Broncos draft at 64? I have 2 names here right now that really interest me, and they're both the Broncos' biggest positions in need. And yes, Scott, I think something is up with your mic. Maybe unplug it and plug it back in. I don't know. But 2 guys that really stuck out to me that I would be interested in at pick 64. You have Abraham Lucas from Washington State. He has played in multiple systems there at Washington State, left tackle, right tackle, and he actually tested extremely well at the combine, surprisingly well at the combine. He has the length that you want for the position. He has versatility, and he's really, really smooth in pass protection. So Abraham Lucas, Washington State, he's a name to keep in mind there. I think he would be a good fit there. I don't know if I'd feel comfortable starting him day one, but the end of the season to year two, yes, absolutely. I think he's a starting tackle in the league. The other guy who comes to mind for me here is I really am interested in Josh Pascal, the edge rusher from the University of Kentucky. He is kind of a versatile inside-outside kind of guy, a little short, but man, he is a fire hydrant. He is so strong at the point of attack. He's bursty. He's not the bendiest in the world, but he's also a guy who can be good on first and second down and then be moved around on third down. So Josh Pascal from the University of Kentucky interests me a lot, and as does Abraham Lucas. I was skeptical of him based on his tape, especially the air raid stuff, but he went down to the Senior Bowl, answered questions there, and then he went to the combine and tested really well and had all the metrics that you want for the position. And the thing with the reason offensive tackles a lot of times go early, you don't find undrafted guys, is because there are very specific body types / thresholds you're looking for the tackles. Lucas meets those, and I don't know if you're going to be able to find one outside of round 3 if you want one to be starting in the next 2 years.
Andrew coming in. How do I sound now?
You sound good. Yep.
Good. Well, as good as you can. You can't polish a turd.
No, you sound good.
Yeah, we can hear you clearly. It doesn't mean you sound good. Andrew Baker comes in and says, "Hey, Nick and Scott, hanging with my father-in-law. He wants a shout out saying the Bears. Well, why not? For the Bears haven't been nearly as fun for Nick's age as they were for mine, with the Super Bowl shuffle and Fridge Perry and Walter Payton and Jim McMahon and all that group. And so, yeah, the Bears they were a lot of fun. And I don't think we got too many people in here. You can actually root for the Bears. It's not like I could say, oh, yeah, the Chiefs or Chargers. There's not a lot of crossover there with the Broncos and Bears. So, yeah, and Ditka. So Bears were big time for us Gen Xers. It's been a while, though, hasn't it?
I grew up East Iowa. Everybody was either a Bears or Packer fan. Some Vikings fans sprinkled in, some Chiefs fans sprinkled in, but Bears Packers was the big thing. And there was a few good seasons when I was pretty young there. The 2004, 2006 range when they had Urlacher and Lance Briggs and Tommy Harris and all those guys and Mike Brown and
Super Bowl. And
Charles
I'll never
Tillman.
Forget Rick Riley, who I don't have any idea what he's doing now, but used to write the back cover of the Sports Illustrated magazines. And I'll never forget the line with Rex Grossman at quarterback after they went in and he was awful. He says, "You went in with the reputation of being the worst quarterback to ever make a Super Bowl, and you failed to live up to that." I was like, ouch.
Not great.
That was a good one.
Yeah, that was a rough one. We got a lot of Bradley Chubb conversation going on. Did anyone watch the last game of 2021? Chubb was awesome. Chubb had 2 surgeries last year on his ankles. You can say what you will about the injury-prone issues, but you're trading Chubb for what right now? A 4th-round pick because he's on his 5th-year option, a 5th-round pick. You're selling low. Chubb plays well this season, first season in a while where he hasn't had an off-season surgery that he's had to rehab from. And you're talking about a guy who, because of the pedigree and because of the position he plays, probably puts you in line for a compensatory pick in 2024. I know that's a ways off, but Chubb is more valuable on your roster right now, and seeing what he can be, if he can be a solution, even if it's a temporary solution, rushing the passer from the edge position, than anything you're going to get from him on the open market or clearing the cap space. So I don't think it makes any sense to sell on Chubb right now.
And it's worth a shot. It's 1 year. And if he's good, he's going to be really good. And if he's not, all right, well, we took a chance. And I remember asking you, hey, what do you do? Do you risk getting another contract? And you're like, no, franchise him. Like, oh yeah, I forgot, dumb. Wouldn't it be great to be able to have him go out there and get 15 sacks and you drop a franchise tag on him? No one has more incentive this year to be great than Bradley Chubb. No. Nobody. I mean, it could be the difference between $20 million next year. I mean, it really could. If he goes out and throws up double-digit sacks, he's in the $20 million range in 2023. So here's to Bradley Chubb in 2022. Travis, coming in and talking about Wagner Bobby Wagner. I'm sorry, since his college days at Utah State. It's fun watching those guys, isn't it? And hopefully, again, we were talking about I think it was Jamal made the comment, almost had Russell Wilson 10 years ago, and now here he is. Like I said, maybe it was meant to be.
From what I've been told, and George Payton has continually, people have said things and then he has done the opposite. So this could be pure propaganda from the team, or I guess not diversion from the team. But it does not sound like the Broncos are looking to pay any linebacker big money this offseason. Bobby Wagner's still good, but he's not this top 3 linebacker that he was just a few years ago. His play is starting to, not devolve, but he's starting to step back a little bit. Age is starting to catch up. He's not the coverage guy that he was before. He's still very good, but you're going to be paying for him like he is very good. So I think that the Broncos are not going to allocate the cap space for the linebacker position. It sounds like they're very much approaching what Evero did with the Rams last year, where if I can take a linebacker off the field at any chance possible, I'm going to do it and put a defensive back there, because linebackers in general are not going to be guys that you want there in coverage on third down. So I think they're going to go cheap at linebacker this season. You might see them bring back Josie Jewell if the market isn't big for him. But other than that, I don't see a big move.
And speaking of going cheap, how about the tight end position as Peter comes in, who's not cheap by any stretch of the imagination? Thank you for the stars, Pete. So how early do the Broncos get a tight end? Presumably Broncos get a cheap free agent and a late draft pick, 5th round. It's not a huge tight end class, which means that you can probably wait, like you're saying. There's no Kyle Pitts in this one. What about someone like Austin Hooper, if he gets cut from the Cleveland Browns, who's got a good pedigree catching the ball? Another guy that, again, if the Falcons could get back some money that for players that Matt Ryan has made a lot of money for, Austin Hooper would be one of those guys who got a big contract once he left Atlanta. But he's got a decent pedigree of catching the ball. Someone like that could be a possibility. We were talking a little bit about Trey McBride last night. Maybe 3rd. He might go in the 3rd. I don't know. I wouldn't want him any higher than that. 4th round, but a cheap free agent, a late draft pick. You got a bunch of them. What are you looking at here, Nick?
I've known that Mike Klis has tossed out the name Will Dissly, who the Seahawks drafted out of Washington a few years ago. He's been a really good Y blocking tight end, but he's had injury issues. If Broncos fans probably remember them, because when the Broncos played the Seahawks, Dissly went for like 200 yards against that Vance Joseph defense that was absolutely dreadful against tight ends. Let's play man coverage with a tight end there. Yeah, great idea. With the linebackers, not Vance. What are you doing? So maybe he's a name to lean into. And the thing is, like, Broncos country went into a tizzy after they traded for Russell Wilson and giving up Noah Fant. Like, what are we going to do at number 1 tight end now? Guess what, guys? Historically speaking, Russell Wilson hasn't really utilized the tight end as much as other positions. So I'm not really worried about it too much. If you can find yourself a competent blocker there that can come in and make teams have to play nickel instead of dime against you in 11 personnel, that's enough for me. Some names that stick out to me that I think would be good fits for the Broncos specifically. Jeremy Ruckert is a name. Ohio State. I think he's a developing solid blocker there. Maybe you can get him at pick 96. I think 75 be a little early, but 96 if he's there, that interests me. And then there's also Bellinger from San Diego State, a pretty good blocker there. Moves decently. He's not going to be a great separator, but he's hulking and he's strong at the point of attack in the run game and pass protection. So 2 names that I have my eyes on that I've thought make fit for what I believe the Broncos should be doing at the tight end position.
Michael Thornsberry coming in. That feels like a newer name to me. Welcome, Michael. Yeah. Saying, Nick and Scott, who do you feel would be Russell Wilson's backup? Oh, I don't know. I really don't. It becomes such a journeyman job. Find somebody that's everyone else has given up on and sign them to a veteran minimum. That's going to be the thing. You're not going to invest in the backup quarterback position. It's just going to be a guy. It's going to be a guy who's going to make $1 million, holding the clipboard. It'll be nice. And maybe with one of your 72 draft picks, maybe you pick someone else down the road. Again, Bailey Zappi interests me as one of those guys. I think he's obviously knows the game. The guy threw for 6,700 yards this year. He obviously knows how to find the open receiver. I feel like he's got a Kellen Moore trajectory where incredibly productive college career and doesn't quite have enough of it for the pro career. 2 years later, he's an offensive coordinator for the Dallas Cowboys. But for me on this one, Michael, I just feel it's going to be a veteran minimum type. Josh Rosen is now a free agent. Bring him in, let him take some snaps. But it's not going to be anybody you're like, oh yeah, if Russell Wilson goes down, well, we've got this guy. there aren't many of those guys in the NFL.
Yeah. As far as backup goes, somebody who's cheap. A name that I've been told multiple times to keep an eye on is Caleb Bellaby out of Western Michigan. He's a little bit taller than Russell Wilson, but he's not a tall guy by any means. And I think you could run a very similar offense for both of those guys as well. The quick pass, RPO, a lot of slants, a lot of glances on the outside, and then some deep balls down the field. If you haven't got a chance to watch some Western Kentucky football yet from last year, definitely worth a show. Sky Moore, wide receiver to keep an eye on next year. I think he had the biggest hands at the combine this year for any wide receiver. He had some absolute mitts. Maybe that's somebody for Scott to keep an eye on there for the Falcons day 2. Nathan coming in here. Are there any right tackles and free agents that you guys like? New York Jets, Morgan Moses, or the Trent Brown from the Patriots that interest you? Trent Brown has been exceedingly injured, and I think he is purely a gap scheme centric right tackle. So he's one that I would strike off the list for this Broncos blocking scheme going forward that wants to implement more wide zone, outside zone concepts. This guy he can't move. He's really good at guy right in front of him and blocking him forward. But if you're asking him to reach a landmark, it's not happening for Trent Brown. Morgan Moses interests me. I do think that his market might be pretty big, given he has done the number one thing that players need to do, which is stay healthy and stay on the field. He's fine. But there's a reason that the Jets have been mocked, offensive tackle at pick 4 or pick 10 ad nauseum, instead of bringing back Morgan Moses when they have plenty of cap space to do it. So I don't think there's a massive difference between Morgan Moses and Bobby Massey to the point where they're going to get paid $6-7 million difference per year. So they're fine. But right now it's after La'el Collins, it's a little bit of a plug your nose, and I'd rather not pay big for a plug your nose level player.
So I'm getting some word that I'm having some sound issues. Now I can see me kind of, I don't know what's going on tonight. I apologize, y'all.
You're better now.
Okay. Free agents. My guy is Chuck Okorafor.
Yes. That's
right tackle.
Yep.
Pittsburgh Steelers, 24 years old, had almost 1,100 snaps last year and gave up 2 sacks. Now there's more to playing the right tackle position, and that's just a very high level thing. But a guy plays 1,100 snaps and only gives up 2 sacks, and he's 24. I'm real interested. And I think he was on about 2 last year, and he could be in the neighborhood of, triple that. And at $6 million, he's still a bargain.
Yeah, no, absolutely. He's definitely an interesting player as well. I'm most interested in La'el Collins, though, if he does become available. I think that Broncos are going to have a hard time getting him in comparison with some other teams that might be a little bit more desperate at the right tackle spot with more capital than the Broncos have. But we'll see. If he's available, I think you go get him. $10 million a year for 3 years with, I think, 0 guaranteed money after the trade. I mean, that seems like a no-brainer to me, but there's going to be some interest for him. I would assume he has had injuries and he was suspended also. So, hasn't been playing that much football over the last 2 years. So there's a little bit of risk there, but he definitely interests me. So let's keep it going here. Let's talk a little bit more about the AFC West. I still think the Chiefs are the cream of the crop, but I do think that the Chargers are a team that's ascending right now. No doubt about it. They have a bleep ton of cap space. The other thing here that I don't think people are putting enough emphasis on is that how different the scheme was going from their Gus Bradley style cover 3 defense to Brandon Staley and the match quarters 2 high safety shell. Couldn't be more different. Night and day different what they're doing there. And it was always going to take a transition period. There's no way in hell they're going to be the 30th ranked team against the run next season. If this free agency class is anything, it's run stuffing defensive tackles. They're going to be able to walk away with a couple of those guys and feel pretty good about it. So, Eddie Goldman was just released. Akeem Hicks is going to be available. You got Sheldon, from the Rams, it's going to be available. Sean Robinson is going to be available. Those are just on the top of my head. The guy from UConn coming off the Jets, who has a Fluicon or something like that. One of his names. He's a really good run stuffing guy. BJ Hill, really good run stuffer. So the Chargers, a lot of money. I think they're going to be able to do that. I think that the Chargers honestly are going to give the Chiefs a run for their money this season. And I say that knowing full well that the Chargers are just going to charger it up. And maybe this is just me doing a reverse jinx because the Chargers always get injured or fail to meet expectations because they're the bleeping Chargers. I think they built their new stadium on an Indian burial ground or something. I really like how they're built right now. I mean, Rashawn Slater, 2 good pass catchers, Justin Herbert, and people didn't make enough hay last season, I guess, or enough talking points about bringing in Matt Filer and Corey Lindsley, who are really good for them on that offensive line. So I don't know. It's they scare me a good bit.
So the Chargers are picking at 17. That feels like a no man's land for the big defensive tackles. That feels like it might be a little late for a Jordan Davis and a little early for a Travis Jones. You think? I mean, if you're talking about wanting a guy to come in there and okay, I need to be able to stuff the run, and for all the good things they did, we talk about not wanting to reach for a need, but Travis Jones is a good player. He's a really good player. Would that be too high? And I don't think Jordan Davis falls that low, not after the combine he had. He went freakazoid on people.
The names that I like for the Chargers there at 17, any of the wide receivers that fall there, you have Josh Palmer. He didn't do diddly last year. Keenan Allen's getting old. And if you want to unlock Justin Herbert more, a really cerebral quarterback, get him a Jamison Williams, get him a Chris Olave, get him one of those guys. I mean, that's exponentially helps that offense.
In perfect weather in LA.
Yes. God,
yeah,
run up the court. The other one is Trent McDuffie. I think Trent McDuffie is the absolute perfect scheme fit for what Brandon Staley wants. Smart. Doesn't matter that he doesn't have length or size for the off scheme. He's one of the smartest players in the draft class. Everybody keeps raving about him. He makes a heck of a lot of sense for them as well. I think they're going to patch up just like the Broncos try to patch up their defensive line in free agency. Because again, there are a lot of run stuffing defensive tackles available this offseason.
Yeah, and they don't pick again until middle third round. That's the problem. Yeah. It's just, but I didn't look and see where they were on free agent money. But if you're again, they crashed and burned towards the end of last year. But the loss to the Houston Texans is fairly inexcusable.
Yeah,
it's
the Bengals lost to the Bears.
I know,
Bills lost to the Jaguars.
One, the Bears are better than Houston, and two, when did they lose to the Bears? With Week 17 with the playoffs on the line, that's inexcusable.
Yeah. Yep. I definitely agree with you there.
I wonder a little bit, and then you fall to the Raiders. I'm okay. Okay. The Raiders, it's a division game on the road, but you lost that, kind of like we talk about the overtime stuff. I'm like, you didn't lose because of something that happened to the Raiders. You lost because you lost in Week 16 to the Houston Texans. That's why you miss the playoffs.
Yep.
But again, I don't feel like they're that far ahead of the Broncos last year. At least it didn't show. They may have all the personnel, but it's what's going to bring it all together, Nick? Is it going to happen? Because I can point real easy to why you're going to put a big upward swing on the Denver Broncos. Yeah. Now I agree with you. I think the Chargers are on the ascendancy. Yeah. But the Broncos have been down here. Maybe they improved a little bit, but now that arrow should be pointing up a lot higher this year.
It's just stupid that Justin Herbert's making $7 million against the cap for being a top 5 quarterback for the next 2 years. I mean, it's unfair.
Where's Josh Allen?
Yeah, he's getting paid now. He's getting huge money.
Okay.
Herbert's the one.
Did they give him a preemptive deal
before his 5th year option? Yep. I mean, it was like to the point where I'm going to sit out. So he's been paid. He's the next guy to get paid is either Baker Mayfield or Lamar Jackson, which we'll see. Maybe Kyler Murray too.
I think it's going to be Baker Mayfield.
I don't either, but 5th year option. If he goes off this year, Cleveland's going to be in a weird spot unless they trade for Deshaun Watson. We'll see. So, and the team we didn't even talk about here, I guess, really the Raiders. I don't know what to say about the Raiders. They were not very good last season. The fact that they made the playoffs is a total anomaly. All their advanced data is like, this is wild. And I guess team of destiny in a sense, and hats off to Carr for kind of keeping that team together. But I think that the Raiders are pretty squared away as the 4th team in the AFC. And I wouldn't be surprised at all if the Broncos, Chiefs, or Chargers ended up winning. It's just I have a hard time with the Broncos right now, given how many new variables they have. We kind of already know what the infrastructure and the offense and defense is going to look like for the Chiefs, for the Chargers as well. Broncos, I mean, it's going to be a completely new scheme, new coaches, new quarterback. They could take off running, or it could take a little bit of time. It's too hard to say.
So we're winding it down here. So anything we just hit the 1 hour mark. I may have been at 59 minutes myself since I had to duck out of here, and I'm not sure it fixed everything. We'll give ourselves a good restart before we come back on. EJ's come in with several questions. I know he says, Nick and Scott, will the Broncos re-sign Gordon? Depends on how badly Gordon wants to be re-signed. I don't see any reason why he wouldn't be part of the team. Like, no, we don't want this guy. Like Carson Wentz, they were going to give him away. We don't want this guy.
Yeah.
But Melvin Gordon's just about the money. So how badly does Melvin Gordon want to be a Denver Bronco? Because he'd get enough money to live on for sure, $3-4 million a year, but anything more than that, and I'm go ahead and go. There's other places I'd rather invest that money into this team than into a second running back. If it's going to cost me another $3 or $4 million.
Yeah. It sounds like the Broncos are interested in Gordon, but less than what Gordon wants. So I'm expecting Gordon to test the market. And if, for a third contract running back, if there's not really a big desire for him out there, then I could see him coming back. I wouldn't have any issue with him coming back. People are like, oh man, we're taking away carries from Javonte Williams. You're keeping Javonte Williams fresh. You're keeping those. This is a 17 game season now. It's a marathon, and dings and bruises. The Broncos last year not having an injury at the running back position, complete anomaly. I would not expect that again. You only had one game where Melvin Gordon was out. I wouldn't expect that at all. It wouldn't depend on that. So will be interesting. Now we got our stars coming in here as we were wrapping up. Gary Leeds Palmer with 1,000,
including Nathan on here coming in real quick. Said, I'm not sure about the Chargers ascending if their coach is going to keep going for it on 4th and their own 18. Yeah. That's not really the by the book play, is it? Thank you, Nathan.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Miguel coming in as well. Phil with the new profile picture. Good to see. Travis Weber, 260, and then Nathan, 250. Great to see. Thank you so much. Oh, we also got Peter Middleton come in, and sorry you're late. I was sorry too, but good to see you, Peter. Andrew Baker, he wanted to go Bears, so go Bears, Andrew. David Wilder as well, 50, and Dave Glassman with 50. Thank you guys so much. We appreciate you for all the support. Also, everybody doing super chats today. It is going to be a phenomenally fun season in the AFC West, and we're just getting started
give me a sec, Nick. I want to shout out some super chats. So when I saw Nathan on the stars, I'm like, don't we normally see Nathan on YouTube? Well, not only do we normally see Nathan on YouTube, we saw him on YouTube tonight as well. So Nathan, double dipping Facebook and YouTube. Thank you so much, sir. Yep. But Paul coming in, Aaron J, Swink McLeod, Nathan, KB. Yep. I'm sorry, that was yesterday. So Nathan was yesterday too. So our super, I'm dipping into last night, but either way, thank you. I didn't get a chance to say thank you last night. So thank you to Kenneth Booker, Base Case, and Nathan last night, and Swink and Aaron and Paul tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. And one more thing, Peyton, this is the thing, overhyping the Chargers. I'm taking my stab right now. Chargers didn't make the playoffs last year. What did the Bengals do the year before they made the Super Bowl? They were picking 5 overall. Jamar Chase. That was a team that was on the precipice of everybody being fired, and they made the Super Bowl. So the Chargers missing the playoffs by that much with all the resources they have and whatnot. I think that's the team that's ascending. If I'm wrong, God, put a clown mask on me. That's okay. I don't care. But I think that's a team that is very much in the ascension in the AFC West. Absolutely wild. It's going to be a lot of fun. The AFC West is going to be essentially the SEC. You might as well just play every single AFC West game in prime time. It's going to be that good. Maybe they should put sorry, Scott, maybe they should put the NFC South games at like 10 a.m. or 9 a.m. So that way we can just cover our eyes from those ones,
Yeah, it's the NFC South is, I'm not even sure what to compare it to. The AFC South, what it's been, just, those teams in the North calling themselves AFC South. Yeah. We're not real good geography in these, are you? I guess it's better than when the Falcons were in the NFC West. David coming with the question, is the day of the 1,000-yard running back a thing of the past? No, in fact, I think it's a lot less meaningful, though. When you went from 14 to 16 games to 17 games now, it's 60 yards a game. 60 yards a game if you stay healthy, obviously. But we should start thinking more of the 2,000-yard running back. I know I feel like Derrick Henry was on that pace until he got hurt or close to it. But I was actually a little surprised. I say this, and then I see that there were only 7 running backs that broke 1,000 yards last year. That, to me, is surprising. So is it a thing in the past? One of them went for 1,800. Jonathan Taylor was 600 higher than the next guy. But 60 yards a game isn't much to ask if you can stay healthy. So I feel like we're going to see more 1,000-yard rushers. What was it in 2020? 2020, there were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, including a 2,000 guy in 16 games. So, no, I think 7 was actually low with 17 games. I think we should probably see double digits on a fairly regular basis. What happens now is the day of the 1,000-yard running back being a thing, those days are gone.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, 1,000 yards. Okay, yay, you rush for 50 yards a game.
No, absolutely. I mean, it's just the running game and the position, the value of the running back, especially the bell cow, I think is diminished. You want healthy bodies in there. You want a bevy of backs that you can hand it off to. But either way, guys, we're going to get out of here. We appreciate you. Broncos right in the mix. That's all you could ask for. Really excited to see what this team looks like. And gosh, free agency is right around the corner, kicking off here on the 14th, I believe. It's legal tampering opens the 14th. We'll start to get some announcements. And then 16th is when it officially comes. So going to be a lot of fun. Really excited.
So you say the 14th, and I think, wait a minute, when is that? It's like in 36 hours.
Yep, Tuesday, I believe. So it's maybe it's the 15th. Either way, right around the corner. Going to be so much fun. Make sure you guys are tuning in with us. Make sure you're following Scott and I on Twitter. Scott is at Scout Kennedy. I'm at Nick Kendell MHH. Also, make sure you're following us at Mile High Huddle as well. And please go to huddleuppod.com. Check out the gear. Check out the coffee mugs. We have those there with the Broncos for breakfast. We also have the Broncos for breakfast hats, Mile High Insiders hats, gear, everything like that. If you guys are on Facebook, make sure you're joining us at facebook.com/Mile High Huddle. Also, number one thing you can do to support us, please subscribe, like, and share over on YouTube. Scott, I don't know what you're doing the rest of the day, but it's a couple of my buddies' birthdays out here. So I think I'm going to have a couple cold ones here and hopefully somewhere inside because it's cold and raining outside, but going to have a good rest of the night, I think.
Now, this is twice. Now, our pal, the first time I was willing to say it was a mistake, but now this is twice. This guy, that's Nick. I'm Scott, and y'all are Broncos country. Our pal, we love you. In here a lot. Appreciate you. What am I going to do tonight? Well, it's like 10 after 9. I got to get up early. So it'll be a pretty quick night. You know what I'll probably do, and I'm going to cover up the chat. I'll probably put on Manchester United and Spurs because I have no idea what happened in that game and go to sleep to it. When I put on a game, whether it's football's a little harder with all the commercials. Those get irritating. Yeah. Soccer's nice. Just clears your mind. Baseball, I'm out.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, guys, have a good one. Stay safe. Have a good rest of your Sunday or Saturday. Have a good Sunday as well. And we'll see you Monday morning for Broncos for breakfast. Go Broncos.
You've been listening to the Huddle Up Podcast. Join Broncos Country's deep divers at milehighhuddle.com to keep the conversation going.